Cole stood quietly among the group of humans, feeling like a stranger in the middle of a celebration he barely understood. They were on the planet Varnak, home of a proud alien warrior race known for their strength, traditions, and strict honor codes. The air smelled of burnt herbs, and strange music echoed through the square as thousands of Varnak citizens watched from tiered stone seats. It was supposed to be a peaceful event, a friendly ceremony between Earth and Varnak. Nothing dangerous. Just a formal gathering to show unity between the two species after years of tension. Cole, a young diplomat sent to observe, never imagined he would be the center of attention. Suddenly, the music stopped. A tall, powerful alien woman stepped onto the platform. Her armor shone like metal fire under the twin suns, and her deep purple skin marked her as a high-ranking warrior. The crowd began to chant her name. Lyra. Lyra. She was the Varnak's most respected commander, known for leading battles that saved their cities from invaders. Her sharp, serious eyes scanned the humans, and when she reached Cole, their gazes met. It was only for a second, but it changed everything. Cole didn't mean anything by it. He was just curious, maybe even a little nervous. But the way he looked at her, steady, calm, without fear, made her blink in surprise. And then, silence fell. All the Varnak stopped moving. Even the wind seemed to pause. Lyra stepped down from the platform and walked directly toward Cole. Her soldiers followed. Cole felt his heart pound. He didn't move, didn't speak. He didn't understand what was happening, but the eyes around him were wide, and the air had suddenly turned cold. Lyra stood only a few feet from him now. "You stare like a challenger," she said in a clear, loud voice. Cole blinked. What? "You look at me without lowering your gaze," she continued. "Among our people, that means one thing. You challenge me. In front of all Varnak." "No," Cole said quickly. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to offend. It is not offense. It is a right," she said, her voice calm but heavy. "You have issued a silent challenge before the public. The right of intention has been triggered. What does that mean?" Lyra's expression was unreadable. She turned to the crowd, raised her arm, and shouted something in her own language. The people responded with a loud, surprised roar. Some clapped. Some gasped. A translator drone buzzed beside Cole. "The trial of intention shall be held at dawn." "Trial?" Cole asked. "Wait, what kind of trial?" But the Varnak around him were already forming two lines, bowing their heads as Lyra walked away. She didn't look back. Cole turned to the nearest human, a scientist named Dr. Wells. "What just happened?" "I think you just challenged one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy," she whispered. "I didn't challenge anyone." Cole hissed. "Well, tell that to them," Wells replied, pointing at the thousands of cheering Varnak. Guards approached him next, not with weapons, but with respectful distance. "You must prepare," one of them said. "You have less than one full rotation to face the trial." Cole was led away from the square to a circular stone chamber with no doors, just an open ceiling that revealed the fading sky. He was left alone, with only a mat to sit on, a jug of water, and his thoughts. He sat down slowly, still trying to understand what had happened. All he did was look at her. In human culture, it was normal. Eye contact showed confidence or curiosity. But here, it meant a challenge. And not just to any ordinary person. To a war leader, a living legend. He rubbed his hands together. They were cold with sweat. Could he back out? Maybe explain it was a mistake. He had no idea how their culture worked. But the look on Lyra's face hadn't been anger. It had been surprise. And maybe interest. Night fell quickly, and the two moons of Varnak rose high above. Their pale glow lit the room with soft silver. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the entrance. It was a young alien, much smaller than the others, with bright green eyes and smooth armor that looked ceremonial. "Are you him?" the figure asked in a soft voice. Cole stood up. Yes, I'm Cole, and I think I've made a terrible mistake. The figure smiled slightly. Maybe. Or maybe you've done something great. My name is Rico. I believe you didn't mean to challenge Commander Lyra. But now you must still face the trial. What kind of trial is it? Cole asked. Rico stepped inside and sat down on the floor beside him. It's not about weapons or fighting. It's about heart. The trial of intention doesn't test your body. It tests what you meant and what you're willing to do. Cole swallowed. So, what happens if I fail? Rico looked up at the moons. Then you'll prove you are a coward, and the humans will lose the Varnek's trust. Cole sat back down slowly. This was bigger than him now. The night before the trial of intention, Cole lay awake on the cold stone floor of his cell, staring at the faint light filtering in from the open ceiling. His mind raced, thinking about the words Rico had said. It's not about weapons or fighting. It's about heart. But what did that mean? How was he supposed to prove his heart in front of an entire alien crowd? And most of all, what if he failed? He glanced over at Rico, who had somehow managed to fall asleep in the corner. The small alien's green eyes had closed, but Cole could tell that Rico wasn't as relaxed as they seemed. Everyone knew that facing Lyra in any kind of challenge was no small feat. Cole sighed and stood up, stretching his stiff limbs. He needed to understand what was expected of him. The stakes were too high. A small mistake could ruin everything, not just for him, but for all of Earth. And he didn't even know what the trial was going to be like. Suddenly, he heard a faint sound, the soft hum of a hovercraft approaching. He turned, hoping it was someone coming to explain what he had to do. But as the figure stepped into the doorway, Cole froze. It was Lyra. She stood there, tall and proud, her armor gleaming in the soft moonlight. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at him with those cold, intense eyes. He felt his heart rate quicken. Commander Lyra, Cole said, trying to sound calm. I didn't mean to challenge you. It was a misunderstanding. Lyra didn't respond. She just stared at him for a moment, and then she walked past him, her footsteps echoing through the chamber. She stopped near the edge of the room, turning her back to him. You misunderstand more than just this challenge, human, Lyra said, her voice low but firm. The Varnak are a proud people. We do not bow down easily. You think this challenge will be over tomorrow, but it will follow you forever, as long as you live among us. Cole swallowed hard, trying to gather his thoughts. The trial of intention, she interrupted, tests not only strength, but the will to face the truth, your heart. But to succeed, you must first understand the Varnak code. She turned to face him, her piercing eyes locked on his. I will help you. Not because I like you, but because you have potential. Help, Cole said, his voice shaky. What do you mean? Lyra stepped forward, her boots clicking on the stone floor. The trial is simple. You must prove your resolve, your heart, and your desire for peace. You will face many tests. Some will test your mind, others your emotions, and others your courage. And ultimately, you will face me. But if you fail, you will be labeled a coward. You will live with that forever. She paused, and Cole thought he saw something flicker in her eyes, something almost human. It was gone as quickly as it appeared. I have no choice, do I? Cole muttered, more to himself than to her. No, she said, her tone hard. You don't, but you do have a chance. If you want to survive, you must pass the trial. And you must do it with your heart. With that, Lyra turned and walked out of the room, her figure fading into the shadows. Cole stood there, staring at the doorway, his mind spinning. He had never been in a situation like this before. His mind raced. What if he didn't make it? What if he failed and destroyed the chance for peace between Earth and Varnak? A soft voice broke his thoughts. Rico was awake, sitting up against the wall. You've met her, Rico said quietly. Yeah, Cole replied, rubbing his eyes. "I'm still not sure what to think." Rico nodded. "She's not as bad as she looks. In fact, she's respected by all Varnak, even the elders. She's been through trials like this before, and she will test you. But what you do now, how you face this challenge, will change everything." Cole frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Varnak believe that when a challenger looks at their enemy with intent, that is their true nature. They test not just your body, but your character. And you're in for a wild ride. The real challenge isn't just facing Lyra. It's what you learn about yourself." Rico's words stuck with Cole as he lay back down. The trial wasn't about being strong. It wasn't about weapons or combat. It was about revealing who he truly was. As the night wore on, Cole found himself more and more restless. He kept thinking about what Rico had said. It's about your heart. What did that mean for him? What was his heart truly made of? When the first light of morning broke across the horizon, Cole stood up, feeling a new sense of resolve. The Varnak were waiting for him outside. The large crowd stood in the great arena, watching the proceedings unfold. Rico had explained that the trial would begin with the mind, then move to his courage. The final test would be his emotions, how he truly felt about the Varnak and their way of life. Cole didn't know if he was ready, but he had no choice. He was going to face whatever came next with everything he had. Lyra stood at the far end of the arena, her posture rigid and strong. She glanced over at Cole as he approached, her eyes cold but calculating. There was something else there, though, perhaps a flicker of curiosity. "Do you understand now?" Lyra called out, her voice carrying across the arena. Cole took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling with each steady breath. "Yeah," he replied. "I do." Lyra's lips twitched into the smallest of smiles, a slight change in her otherwise unshakable composure. Then let the trial begin. The great arena was buzzing with energy as the crowd's anticipation built. Varnak warriors lined the edges of the stone circle, their eyes fixed on Cole. He was about to face the trial of intention. It was a test unlike anything he had ever known, and he could feel the weight of it pressing down on him. For the first time since arriving on Varnak, Cole realized how far out of his depth he truly was. Rico had given him advice, but the small alien's words didn't do much to calm his nerves. It's not about weapons. It's about your heart. But how could Cole prove his heart? How could he show a crowd of alien warriors, led by the fierce Commander Lyra, that he was worthy of their respect? His thoughts kept racing, but he had no answers. As the trial began, a loud horn sounded, echoing across the arena. Lyra stepped forward, her purple skin gleaming under the two suns. Her armor was shining brightly, and every movement she made radiated authority. She didn't look at Cole. Her eyes were fixed on the crowd, who were already chanting her name. She was ready for whatever Cole was about to face. A horn sounded again, this time from a different direction. Rico appeared beside Cole, walking quietly and calmly. Rico gave him a reassuring nod but didn't speak immediately. Instead, they both turned to face the trial ground, where a giant holographic board had emerged from the stone floor. On it were several complex shapes and shifting patterns. First, Rico said, finally speaking up, "You will face the trial of the mind. You must solve the puzzle before you. It is designed to test how quickly you think under pressure." Cole stared at the board, unsure of what to do. The shapes twisted and turned in impossible ways. The lines shifted like living things, constantly changing. He had never seen anything like this. It wasn't like a puzzle on Earth. This was something completely alien, and it felt as though it was mocking him. But then he remembered something Rico had said the night before. The trial is not about strength. It's about your resolve, your willingness to face the unknown, and how you handle the challenges. With that in mind, Cole stepped closer to the board, his heart racing but his mind clearing. He had been trained to think under pressure. He might not be a warrior, but his training as a diplomat had taught him how to solve problems quickly, even when the stakes were high. He didn't have the luxury of time or a perfect answer. He had to act fast. The shapes on the board spun, and suddenly it clicked. He saw the pattern, a shape within the chaos. He quickly placed his hand on the correct area of the hologram, and in an instant, the puzzle reformed, revealing the solution. The entire arena erupted in applause, and Cole felt a rush of relief flood through him. That was the first challenge, but there were more to come. Rico smiled faintly. You passed the first test, but there are many more to come, and this one only tested your mind. Now we test your heart. Before Cole could respond, Lyra stepped forward. The trial of the heart will now begin, she announced. Her voice was calm but fierce, carrying across the arena. The crowd went silent again, watching closely. Cole took a deep breath. This was the part of the trial that he had been dreading. The trial of the heart. What did that even mean? Lyra gestured for him to step forward. In this part of the trial, you must face your deepest fear. You will not fight with weapons, but with what lies inside your heart. If you face your fear with courage, you will prove yourself worthy. Cole's heart pounded. Fear. What was he afraid of? He had been afraid of failure, afraid of not being able to live up to the expectations of his people, afraid that he wasn't strong enough to survive in this alien world. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled, and a thick fog rolled into the arena. The crowd gasped as a figure slowly appeared through the mist. It was an enormous creature, a beast with glowing red eyes, its massive claws scraping the stone floor. Its body was covered in armor-like scales, and it let out a low growl as it stalked toward Cole. The crowd began to whisper, but Lyra remained silent, watching him closely. The creature towered over him, its presence enough to make anyone freeze in terror. Cole's hands shook, but he refused to look away. This wasn't just a creature. This was his fear of failure, his fear of being crushed by something far greater than himself. The creature reared back, preparing to strike. Cole's mind raced. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have an army. He only had himself and what he believed in. In that moment, he remembered the words Rico had said. This trial is about your heart. It's about facing what you fear and showing courage, not with weapons, but with your resolve. Cole stepped forward, his legs trembling but his resolve firm. I'm not afraid of you, he said, his voice steady. I will face you with courage, not violence. The creature paused. It let out a roar, but it didn't strike. Instead, it seemed to shrink back, its claws retracting. The crowd gasped in awe as the creature disappeared into the mist, leaving Cole standing alone in the arena. Rico stepped forward, nodding approvingly. You faced your fear with courage, Cole. That is the heart of the trial. You have passed. Cole breathed a sigh of relief, but there was no time to celebrate. The crowd was still watching, and the final challenge was ahead. He had proven his mind and his heart, but now he would have to prove his spirit. Cole stood in the center of the arena, sweat beading on his forehead. The second challenge had been terrifying, but somehow he had faced it. His heart had raced when the fearsome creature appeared before him, but his resolve had been stronger. He had proven to himself that he could face the unknown. Still, despite passing the trial of the mind and the trial of the heart, Cole knew that the real challenge had yet to come. He looked around the arena, and for the first time, the Varnak were not just watching him. They were beginning to see him. Some were still skeptical, their faces hard and unmoving. Others, however, were whispering to each other, nodding as if something had changed in their perception of the human diplomat. Cole's mind raced. Had he truly passed these trials? The crowd's reactions were so mixed that he wasn't sure if they were beginning to respect him or if they were still unsure of what to make of him. Lyra stood at the edge of the arena, her eyes scanning the crowd as well. She hadn't spoken since the creature disappeared. Cole wondered what she was thinking. Did she see him as a worthy opponent, or was she just waiting for him to make a mistake? A low murmur from the crowd interrupted his thoughts. The elder council had begun speaking among themselves. The Varnak were a proud race, and they weren't quick to accept weakness. But if there was one thing Cole had learned in the past few days, it was that the Varnak respected courage. And it wasn't just about the challenges. It was about proving you had the strength to stand by your beliefs, no matter the odds. Suddenly, a loud voice broke through the murmurs. The rival war leader Threx stepped forward, his face twisted in disdain. "This trial has gone on long enough," he called, his voice echoing through the arena. "You've shown your resolve, human. But that is not enough. You've proven your mind and your heart, but you have not yet shown your true strength." The crowd quieted. Threx's challenge was clear. Cole had passed the intellectual and emotional trials, but now he would face the true test, his physical strength. Threx was one of the fiercest warriors in the Varnak army, and his challenge was a direct threat to Cole's survival. Cole's throat went dry. He had known that this moment would come. He had faced 2 trials already, and each one had tested him in ways he never expected. But now, Threx was calling him out in front of the entire crowd. Lara stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "The final trial is the trial of spirit," she said, her voice carrying across the arena. "It is not about strength alone. It is about the will to act, the determination to fight for what you believe in." Threx sneered at Lyra's words. "I will show him what true strength means. If he survives me, I will consider him worthy of the title of challenger." Cole swallowed hard. He had no choice but to face Threx. He had made it this far, and he couldn't back down now. He had to prove to the Varnak, and to himself, that he was worthy. Rico moved beside Cole, her voice quiet. "Don't let him intimidate you. Threx is powerful, but he relies on strength alone. You've proven you can think. You've shown your courage. Now show them your spirit." Cole nodded, trying to steady his breath. The arena suddenly felt too small. Threx was a giant in comparison, his towering frame casting a shadow over Cole. The crowd waited, their eyes fixed on the 2 of them. Threx cracked his knuckles, a grim smile forming on his face. "You won't last long, human," Threx growled. Cole stepped forward, raising his chin in defiance. "I'm not here to last long. I'm here to fight." At the sound of the horn, signaling the start of the final challenge, the 2 opponents moved toward each other. Threx charged first, his fists raised and ready to strike. Cole barely had time to react before Threx's massive arm swung toward him. The force of the blow sent a shockwave through the air, and Cole barely dodged, rolling to the side just in time. The ground cracked beneath him as he pushed himself to his feet. Threx was relentless. He swung again, faster this time, aiming for Cole's head. But Cole wasn't going to be caught off guard again. He ducked under the punch and shot forward, landing a quick jab to Threx's side. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make Threx stagger. The crowd gasped. For a moment, the Varnak warriors watched in stunned silence as Cole managed to land a hit. Threx growled, shaking off the surprise and glaring at Cole with fury. He had expected to overpower the human quickly. This was not what he had anticipated. Cole's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the weight of every eye on him, waiting for him to fall. But he refused to give in. He wouldn't let fear control him. Not now, not after everything he had been through. This was his moment, his fight, his chance to prove himself. With a determined yell, Cole lunged forward again, his fists clenched. He didn't need to be stronger than Threx. He just needed to be faster, smarter. He dodged another swing, his body moving with precision. He wasn't just fighting to survive. He was fighting to win. To show them all that humans were not just survivors, they were conquerors. Threx's rage grew, and he attacked with even more fury. But now, his movements were slower, more predictable. Cole danced around him, landing hits when he could, wearing down the larger warrior with every step. Threx was powerful, but Cole had something the Varnak didn't expect: the strength of his will. Finally, with one final, well-placed strike, Cole knocked Threx off balance. The crowd went silent as the war leader crashed to the ground, his body skidding to a stop just inches from Cole's feet. Cole stood over him, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. He had done it. He had faced the trial of spirit. And he had won. The Varnak crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the arena. Cole had proven his strength, not with brute force, but with determination, courage, and heart. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes never leaving Cole. "You have passed all the trials," she said, her voice calm but tinged with respect. "You have earned your place here, among the Varnak. You are a worthy challenger." Cole looked at the crowd, his heart swelling with pride. He had done it. He had shown them that humans weren't just weak prey. They were strong, resilient, and capable of facing any challenge. He had passed the trials, and he had earned their respect. The arena was alive with energy as the Varnak crowd roared in approval. Cole stood in the center, his chest heaving as he tried to catch his breath. He had done it. He had faced Threx, the mightiest warrior of the Varnak, and defeated him. The cheers of the crowd filled the air, but Cole could barely hear them over the sound of his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He had passed the trial of spirit, but now, standing there in the heart of the arena, he realized that the hardest part of the trial was still ahead. The respect of the Varnak was not easily earned, and even now, there were warriors who still doubted him. As the crowd slowly quieted down, Lyra stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Cole. Her tall, imposing figure towered over him, yet there was a different look in her eyes now, one that held respect, but also curiosity. "You have proven yourself human," Lyra said, her voice carrying across the arena. "But now comes the most important part of the trial." Cole wiped the sweat from his brow, his body still trembling from the fight. He had never faced anything like this before. The Varnak warriors, who had been watching him from the stands, were now silent, their gazes fixed on him. Some still looked skeptical, others with growing admiration. But one thing was clear: they were waiting for his next move. "What happens now?" Cole asked, his voice steady but unsure. He had passed the trials, but he still felt like an outsider, a human among a race of warriors. Lyra regarded him for a long moment, as if considering her next words carefully. Then she spoke again. "Now you will face a different test, one that is not about strength, but about your place among us. You will decide whether you are worthy to stand beside us, or if you will leave us forever. This is the trial of your choice." The crowd shifted uneasily at her words. It was a test of loyalty, of commitment. Cole could see it in their eyes. They wanted to know if he was truly one of them, or if he was just a human who had stumbled his way into their world. "You may choose to leave now," Lyra continued. "Return to your people, to Earth. We will not stop you. You will always be welcome as an ally. But if you choose to stay, you must accept the responsibilities that come with being one of us. You must fight for us, stand by us, and live as one of our own." Cole felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The choice was clear, but it wasn't easy. He could return to Earth, to his old life. He could leave this alien world behind and continue his mission as a diplomat, representing his people. But in doing so, he would never truly belong here. He would remain an outsider, always watching from the sidelines, never part of the great Varnak warriors. On the other hand, if he stayed, he would be bound by the same code, the same fierce traditions that the Varnak held so dear. It was a life of honor, of battle, and of sacrifice, and he had no idea if he was ready for it. As he stood there, lost in thought, the crowd waited in silence. The weight of their expectations pressed down on him. Lyra's gaze never wavered, her eyes locked on his with a steady, unwavering intensity. Cole turned his head, looking at the faces of the Varnak warriors. They had seen his strength, his courage. They had witnessed his resolve in the face of Threx, the greatest fighter among them. But was that enough? Rico stepped up beside him, her small figure a stark contrast to the towering warriors around them. "You've already proven you can fight," Rico said softly. "But this choice, this is about your future, about what kind of life you want to live." Cole nodded, trying to steady his thoughts. He had always known that his mission on Varnak was about more than just diplomacy. It was about forging connections, about understanding these people, these warriors. But now, the connection was deeper. It wasn't just about finding common ground. It was about belonging. "I didn't come here to be a soldier," Cole said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "But I didn't come here to be a bystander either. I want to be part of something bigger." He turned to face Lyra. "I'll stay. I'll stand by you." Lyra's expression softened, just a little. "Then you are no longer a mere visitor, human. You are a Varnak, and that is a title you must earn every day." The crowd seemed to accept his decision without question. Some of the warriors nodded approvingly, while others seemed less sure. But the decision had been made, and the Varnak, despite their pride, accepted it. For Cole, it was a new beginning. He was no longer just a human diplomat. He was now a warrior among the Varnak, bound by their code, their traditions, and their way of life. As the crowd began to disperse, the Varnak warriors came forward to congratulate him, some with a handshake, others with a respectful nod. Cole felt an unfamiliar sense of belonging. He had passed their trials, and now he was part of their world. Lyra approached him once more, this time with a look of approval in her eyes. "You have earned your place here, Cole," she said. "But remember, the trials are never truly over. You must continue to prove yourself every day, or you will lose everything you've gained." Cole nodded. "I understand." As the Varnak celebrated, Cole stood with Rico, watching the festivities unfold. It had been a long journey, and there would be more challenges ahead. But for the first time since he arrived on Varnak, he felt truly at home. The Varnak celebrations went on for hours, with laughter and music filling the air. Yet despite the sounds of joy, Cole could not shake the weight of his decision. He had chosen to stay with the Varnak, to fight alongside them, but in his heart, he still wasn't sure if he truly belonged. Lyra had made it clear that this was only the beginning. The trials had been a test of his spirit, but now, it seemed, his real journey was about to start. He had passed, but he was still just a new warrior among the Varnak. They had accepted him into their fold, but proving his worth would take more than just one victory. The night air was cool, and the twin moons of Varnak cast long shadows over the arena as the crowd began to thin out. Cole and Rico stood at the edge, watching as the warriors celebrated their victory. The sight of them, their strength, their unity, it was impressive. Yet, Cole felt like an outsider again, despite his victory. "You did well today," Rico said softly, glancing at him with a proud smile. "Thanks," Cole replied, though his voice lacked the enthusiasm he wished it had. "But it doesn't feel real. I just defeated their greatest warrior, and now I'm supposed to be one of them. I don't know if I can keep up." Rico chuckled. "No one expects you to be like them, Cole. You're not a Varnak. You don't have to be. You've shown you can stand with them, fight alongside them, and face their trials. That's enough for now." Cole nodded, though doubt still lingered in his mind. It wasn't just about the trials anymore. It was about living up to the expectations, about proving that he could survive in this warrior society. His human mind wasn't built for this life. The Varnak thrived on strength and honor, values that seemed so foreign to him. He wasn't sure if he was cut out for a life of battle and sacrifice. As if sensing his thoughts, Rico placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have more than what you think, Cole. The heart of a warrior doesn't come from strength alone. It comes from conviction, from standing up for what you believe in, even when the odds are against you. You've already proven that." Cole glanced over at the warriors laughing and dancing, the firelight reflecting off their shining armor. "I don't know if I can be like them," he said quietly. "You won't have to be," Rico said. "You're already more than enough." Before Cole could reply, a strong voice called out from behind them. Human. Lyra's voice was commanding, her presence unmistakable as she approached them. The crowd parted as she stepped forward, her eyes still as piercing as before. The weight of her gaze made Cole feel small, but he refused to look away. Lyra paused before them. I see you are still doubting your place among us, she said, but you've made your choice, and now you must live by it. Cole straightened. I've made my choice, yes, but it's not easy. I'm not like the Varnak. I'm not a warrior. I don't know if I'll ever be one. Lyra regarded him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. You misunderstand, she said finally. You do not need to be a warrior in the traditional sense. You need only to stand by your word. We value strength, yes, but we also value honor, respect, and loyalty. These are the things that matter most in our world. It's not about being the strongest. It's about being true to yourself. Cole's heart lifted slightly. He hadn't expected Lyra to speak so kindly. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from the commander, one that gave him a glimpse into her true nature. You've already proven your loyalty by staying, Lyra continued. Now you must prove your worth through action. You will be tested again, but not in the arena. Your next challenge will be in the field. Cole's brow furrowed. In the field? What do you mean? Lyra's gaze hardened. We have enemies, human. There are those who do not accept our alliance with Earth. They will test our resolve, just as you were tested here. You will fight with us, as one of us. Rico stepped forward. The Varnak do not take threats lightly. We've had skirmishes with those who wish to stop the peace we've built. It's time for you to stand beside us in battle. Cole's stomach twisted. The arena had been a test of spirit, but this would be different. He wasn't ready for a real fight. He had never held a weapon before. What could he possibly do against the Varnak's enemies? But he knew Lyra's words were not a suggestion. She was offering him a chance to prove himself, not as a warrior, but as a member of their world. If I'm to fight, Cole said slowly, his voice firm despite the nervousness in his chest, I'll need to learn more. I'm not a fighter. I don't know how to use a weapon. Lyra nodded. Then you will learn. The next day, Cole found himself in the training grounds of the Varnak, surrounded by warriors sharpening their skills. The air was thick with the sound of clashing metal and the grunts of exertion. This was their world. A world of war, of survival, of power. Cole felt out of place, but he was determined to prove he could fit in. Rico had been right. This wasn't about being the strongest. It was about strength and resolve, in purpose. He had to find that strength within himself. For hours, Cole trained under the watchful eyes of the Varnak trainers, learning how to hold a sword, how to block, how to fight with precision and speed. His body ached, but he refused to stop. He was no longer just a diplomat. He was part of something bigger now. At the end of the day, Lyra returned to the training grounds. Her eyes scanned the warriors, and when they landed on Cole, there was a flicker of approval. You have learned well, she said, her voice steady. But remember this, human. War is not just about fighting. It is about knowing when to fight and when to stand by your comrades. Cole nodded. I understand. He wasn't just a human among Varnak warriors anymore. He was one of them, ready to face whatever came next. And whatever the future held, he knew that he would never stop proving his worth. The air was thick with tension as Cole stood at the edge of the Varnak camp, looking out over the darkening horizon. The evening had settled in, and the sounds of the nearby forest had gone quiet. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. He had come a long way since the first day he stepped onto Varnak. What had once seemed like an impossible challenge was now his reality. He was no longer just a human diplomat, standing on the sidelines of a foreign world. He was a part of something much larger, something he could no longer ignore. After his training, Cole had learned that the Varnak were a proud, fierce people who respected not just strength, but honor. And while he wasn't yet a true warrior by their standards, he had shown them that he had the spirit to stand by their side. The Varnak had begun to accept him in ways he never expected. But that wasn't enough. The Varnak had enemies, those who opposed their alliance with Earth. And now, Cole's next test was about to begin. Lyra had summoned him earlier that day. She didn't say much, but the seriousness in her eyes told him everything. There was no turning back. Tonight, he would fight, side by side with the Varnak, to defend the peace they had worked so hard to build. The camp was quiet, except for the crackling of the fire at the center. Cole stood near a group of Varnak warriors, his heart pounding. They were preparing for the battle to come, their expressions calm but filled with the quiet intensity that always accompanied war. Rico stepped up beside him, her eyes wide with curiosity. "You ready?" she asked quietly. Cole nodded slowly, though doubt still lingered in his mind. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be." Rico gave him a small, reassuring smile. "You've been through worse. This will be no different." But Cole wasn't so sure. This wasn't a trial in the arena. This was real. The enemies of the Varnak were ruthless, and their mission was simple: destroy the peace between the Varnak and Earth. Cole had seen the tensions rise in recent days. The news of an impending attack had spread throughout the camp, and now it was time to put their preparations to the test. Lyra came into view, walking with purpose toward the warriors gathered around the fire. Her eyes scanned the group, and when she landed on Cole, she gave him a quick nod. She didn't say a word, but the message was clear. He was ready. This was his moment to prove himself. "The time has come," Lyra said, her voice cutting through the air. "We leave at dawn. The enemy is close, and we must meet them head-on." Cole felt his stomach twist. The anticipation was almost unbearable. He wasn't just fighting for himself now. He was fighting for Earth, for the peace they had so carefully built with the Varnak, and for the future they all hoped to create together. The camp began to stir as the warriors prepared for the battle. Weapons were sharpened, and armor was adjusted. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and the sharp tang of metal. Cole joined the others, strapping on the armor that had been specially fitted for him. It felt heavy and unfamiliar, but he knew it was necessary. As he fastened his helmet, Rico moved beside him once again. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked, her voice low. Cole turned to face her. "I have no choice," he said quietly. "This is the only way forward. I can't back out now." Rico nodded, her face serious. "Just remember, this isn't about being the strongest. It's about standing with your people. No one expects you to be a Varnak warrior. Just fight with your heart. That's all anyone will ask." Cole smiled faintly, feeling a little better. He knew Rico was right. He didn't have to be the strongest or the most skilled. He just had to be true to himself and fight for what he believed in. The warriors began to line up, each taking their position with quiet determination. Cole moved into place beside Rico, feeling the weight of his decision settle deeper. There was no turning back now. The enemy was out there, and they were coming for everything the Varnak had worked for. As the group made its way through the dense forest, the moonlight filtering through the trees cast long, eerie shadows. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of boots on the forest floor. Cole's pulse quickened as he wondered what lay ahead. He had faced trials before, but this was different. This was real battle, real danger. Eventually, they reached a clearing. And there, waiting in the distance, were the enemy forces. Cole's heart skipped a beat. The enemy was massive, more than twice the number of Varnak warriors. They were armed and ready, their eyes cold with malice. The Varnak had prepared for this moment, but Cole couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. This wasn't a skirmish. This was war. Lyra stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "We fight as one. Our strength lies in unity. Stay close, fight hard, and we will win." With a final rallying cry, the Varnak warriors surged forward. The enemy met them head-on, and the clash of weapons filled the air. Cole hesitated for a moment, but then he remembered Rico's words. This was his fight now. He had to stand with them, fight for the peace they had built together. He drew his sword, stepping forward with the others, and joined the fray. The battle was chaotic, the noise overwhelming. Cole moved with instinct, dodging attacks and striking when he could. It wasn't as graceful as the training he had undergone, but it was enough. Each swing of his sword brought him closer to understanding what it truly meant to be a warrior. Through the noise and confusion, he spotted Lyra, cutting down enemies with precision and strength. She was a true warrior, and in that moment, Cole realized just how far he had come. He wasn't just standing beside the Varnak as an outsider anymore. He was one of them, fighting for their future, fighting for the peace they had worked so hard to build. As the battle raged on, Cole felt a new sense of purpose. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for something bigger, something worth protecting. The Varnak had accepted him into their world, and now he would prove that he was worthy of their trust. The battle was fierce, but slowly the enemy forces began to retreat. The Varnak had won. They had defended their land, their people, and their alliance with Earth. Cole stood in the middle of the clearing, panting heavily, his body sore but his spirit unbroken. Lyra approached him, her face as stoic as ever, but there was a flicker of respect in her eyes. "You fought well, Cole. You've earned your place among us." Cole nodded, feeling a rush of pride. He had done it. He had faced the trials, fought alongside the Varnak, and proved that he was worthy of their respect. He had become one of them.